Now this is Panama, as covered by the original Altz Barton. So this is everything prior to 1964. Well, started making a lot of silver coins. Apparently in Latin America, people trust silver a lot more than they'll trust fiat coinage. There's the 2.5 cent. Famous Panama pill, as they call it. It's difficult to see what it says or even what year, but it is a Panama pill. Now what's kind of cool, the 5 cent has the specifications of a standard US dime. That is because the price of silver had gotten so very, very low by that time that it just took a lot more silver to represent the same amount of money. The 10 cent was almost the size of a quarter. It may have had the same diameter, but where a quarter would be 6 1/4 grams, this was 5. So it's not really quite like a quarter. The 25 cent now, the size of a $1/2, and the specifications, 12.5 grams, just like a real $1/2, only this is only 25 cents. The centésimos, perhaps. And then this silver dollar size coin, almost silver dollar, of course, is their 50-cent piece. Look at that, you can actually read what's on his hat here. 1904. It says Balboa on there in the bottom of his shirt. But this is actually a little bit smaller. A real silver dollar would be 26.7 stuff grams. This is really only 25, which is just twice the 12.5 of a 50-cent piece, or in this case, the 25-cent piece. Now in 1905, they continued making more of these. Actually, more of all of these, or almost all of these. But 50 cent is the only one they continued showing the date on. Now, 1907, they had a 1/2 cent. The only time they had a 1/2 cent. And they decided, since the price of silver, see, it's 1907, the price of silver is going back up again. So what they did here is they introduced a 2.5 cent piece that has the size and alloy and specifications of a standard US nickel, which, by the way, the Philippines, they were making 5 centavo pieces that really were like US nickels, but at a 2 pesos to $1 rate, they would also have been translated to 2.5 cents, just like this. Now in 1916, they make this again. They also, however, despite the rise in the price of silver, they still, once again, made some 5 cent pieces that are made of silver. These are somewhat rare. Finally, in 1929, they decided to go to standards more consistent with the regular U.S. stateside standards. So here now is Balboa in 1929. 2.5 centésimos, 2.5 cents. That is still copper nickel, but smaller than the nickel, which this 5 centésimos, 5 centésimos de Balboa, for they divide up a Balboa rather than a dollar, is now the exact size, shape, and standards as a normal U.S. nickel. So, 5 centésimos. Now, the very next year, they finally began making silver coins, now proportioned like the standard American ones. So like the US dime, they make the 1/10 of a Balboa. I should bear in mind that the Balboa, well, let's just say the exchange rate between the Balboa and the dollar is probably one of the least interesting ones to monitor, because it is always a 1-to-1 ratio. In fact, other than a very brief period of 1941, Panama simply used, this is quarter of a Balboa, Panama simply used the American paper money and continues to do so even now. So here's the medial Balboa, or a 50-cent piece, if you will. So, Okay, 31. We continued making these coins. So again, there's a tenth of a Balboa. 1931. 20. Yes. Cuarto de Balboa. Quarter Balboa. Okay, and now this time they introduced the 1 Balboa piece. Now this time it is made truly and precisely to the standards of the standard American silver dollar. See how 26.73 stuff. So of course there are no American silver dollars made this year, but there would soon be Cuban pesos and later on Dominican Republic pesos and so forth that would all be made to the same standard. 1932, we have some more 5 centesimo again, and a 10, and a 25, and a 50 cent, $1933, okay, somewhat lower grade specimen, but still not too bad. Okay, 33 quarter Balboa, to the same specifications. Now if you look close, the right hand GR per grain 6.25, or grams I should say. So this is really made to the full standards of a U.S. quarter, which wasn't actually made in 1933, only these U.S. quarter-like quarter Balboas. And of course, there's the half Balboa, 1933. And finally again, we're really doing it for them for these few years, 1934. This has some very interesting toning, but it's an authentic, surface. So it's kind of interesting. 1934S. Despite its rather deep, ugly toning, it's actually a fairly handsome coin. All right, 34 medial Balboa. And finally, another Balboa. Then, in 1935, the 1 cent is introduced. And 37, some more are made. In 1940, this rather freakish 1 1/4 cent piece is made. It's half of a 2 1/2 cent piece, you see, which is half of the nickel. Uno y cuarto centésimos. Oh boy. People didn't like those. It's a hard unit of money to use, so they didn't circulate much. And meanwhile, they're still making some more 2 1/2 cent pieces. Again, all to the same standard as the one we saw in 1929. And then, that's it until after the war. We did one more set here of the silver coins. 1947 tenth of a Balboa. 1947 quarter Balboa. 1947 half Balboa. And 1947 Balboa.